Yeah. Yeah. Over the last 6 months, you could actually throw the accusation that I've not actually looked at the Focus very much and let it go as such. But in truth, that is actually truthful. The car has been running like a Swiss watch throughout the last 6 months, and it has been a source of reliability when Project Beatrix was just on axle stands most of the time. Now that we have passed a major landmark, we have got to the point of the MOT, which he passed. We've added more bits on, beautification work, but Beatrix at the moment is a working, functioning car with only a few bits and pieces long term that need to be done, which will be done very soon. But now my attention turns back to the star of the channel, the Mark 1 Focus. Now I am going to take it, I'm going to put it on axle stands today and give it a good hose down. I've just been to speak to my bodywork man. His body shop, ironically, is on a farm, so that's the best thing about it. Once you've had your car nicely resprayed up, you get to drive through a farm and then having to wash it all off again and basically wreck your paintwork, your fresh paintwork. So it does look like the farm at the moment. So but overall I am quite happy with where the car is. So I'm going to get this car on axle stands and give it a really good hose off. And then I'm going to have a look at all the areas that may have deteriorated, but it is something that you have to do on a Mark 1 Focus, and it is something I have not looked at since last August. And I will see how thorough my previous work, just pre this YouTube channel, I would say, was actually, how thorough was that? How good did I do a good job? Because as I've said before, if you do a cheap, quick job, particularly when it comes to rust killing, removing rust, getting it back to bare metal, painting, undersealing, if you don't do that properly, if you rush, if you don't take your time, you're going to be coming back to it. And there are some little areas that I've noticed that I'm not quite happy with, but I intend to get the front arch liners off and have a really good clean all around the bottom of the car, and then we've got a base to go on. And then I know the car underneath is ready. We are going to use Dynax. Now I'm going to be doing this video split over a few days. This is day one, so this is simply getting all the wheels off, putting it on axle stands and washing the whole thing down. So this episode may be a series of days, so I might explain which days which, but that's all there is, and we'll have a good look and poke around, and you guys can probably see more underneath the car than you have done previously, because I haven't really gone into great detail over the condition of the underside. Right, this hat on at last. Get the old hat on. Right all. See if I can get in. There is a groove in these caps. Just move it up. There we go. One out the way. Preserve that. This looks really clean still. I'm really pleased about that. I am going to be putting the locking nuts, the genuine Ford locking nuts, back on these wheels, because quite frankly I don't think there's any need for these chrome. I hate these chrome ones. They actually pit really easy. These look good, but I'm going to put some genuine the genuine locking nuts back on this car. But right, ideally we want to jack it up, and the way I'm going to do this is we're going to jack up on the bottom of this sill, because I know it's good, and we're going to put the axle stands at the front on the inner chassis rails. I'll actually show you that now. So because this sill was the side that was done, and this is looking really good, just looks really dirty under here, but there's this, as I say, this wing is brand new. There's no actual sign of any corrosion at all, which is great. So I'm just going to use my small jack, because my big one, I can't be bothered to get it out. But the idea is you just jack up on this piece here. This is kind of where you should be jacking up. So you got the bolt that clips the bottom of the wing to the actual car. you should be jacking up around here, not down here and not towards the corner. You should be jacking up on this piece here. And make sure that your jack has got its rubber bung, because you don't want to wreck the paintwork if you've had it resprayed. Okay, I've had to jack it up quite high. The wheels are quite high above the ground. But basically I'm going to use my flexible jack. I've got the 4 jack stands. I've got the flexible one, which I trust now. I'm actually more confident in using these. And these solid ones, which I'm going to put at the back, because I've got these rubber inserts. These are going to go on the back of the sill. I see this sill, this was all redone last year, so I know I can put a jack stand on there, but I don't want to wreck the paint finish, so that's why I'm not using these, because I've got no rubber stuff for them. But this is where you jack up on the Mark 1 Focus. As I say, this is your jacking point here, not jacking up here, because as you can see, there has been some bending going on, and the body shop actually tried to bend it back into place, and then they put some stone chip over the top, which is ideal. There's a tiny bit of surface rust just creeping through here, but I think that's on the back side. So again, these are just little things that I've noticed that you may just want to keep on top of. But kind of where your axle stand needs to be, you've got this chassis rail that goes inwards, right? That's why you jack up there, because the chassis rail is adjacent to where I'm jacking up. So literally run your finger down and kind of place the jack somewhere here, the jack stand. So I would probably place it not where you've got a little hole here. God, that's still waxy. That's a good sign. The wax always still pretty good. Just a few odd areas. See, this is where water can get in. But you want to place your axle stands not kind of towards the front there, but kind of exactly where I've got it in the middle. And make sure you've got a good spot, and then we just release the jack, and then we'll do the other side. Right, again at the rear, what you want is that axle the jack to be jacked up on the actual chassis rail. It's not actually central, which is a bad thing. See what I mean? We've got just some scabbing going on. That's really it. That area I wasn't pleased with anyway, but overall it actually looks really good under here. Really good. But this is where you kind of need to mount your axle stand. Now obviously I'd recommend getting one of these slotted ones, because you're not damaging your pinch weld. But this is where it needs to be, not towards the edge, not too far inwards, just sort of here. And then if we could release the jack, should theoretically just release it in. Done. And as per good practice, once that is now sitting, it's now sitting right on that lip. I'm really pleased about that. Just make sure that axle stand is looking good as well, which it is, and both wheels are above the ground. So we just repeat the same process on the other side. Only thing is, I think this wheel is actually touching the ground still, so I'm going to have to jack it up a fraction, take that wheel off, then jack it down, and then obviously we'll go from there. But that's a bit funny, that is. That axle stand should be set, well, maybe I should have set it a bit higher than that, but truth be told, I'll just jack it up again to get this wheel off. But we'll repeat the same process on the other side. Wow, as I've discovered on the other side, this driveway is actually not completely flat. The car isn't touching the axle stand on that sill over there. And these two are sitting nice. That is sitting nice, but the one over there is not sitting nice at all. So I'm having to employ another jack, one on this side and one on that side, just to give some extra support, just to get this wheel off the ground and then get the wheels off. You know what? I can't be bothered doing it the manual way. Just whack this off. Yeah, why was that one? That one was really loose, that one. Looking good. Typical Ford scabbiness around certain places. Right, all four wheels are now off. We have got support on all four axle stands, but I've kept that jack up and I've kept the jack up on the other side just for safety. Now, this is the worst side of the car. Again, typically we've got the scabbiness going on. It does need a clean. I'm going to wash this down next thing. I just want to show you how it is. There is a little hole here, and this piece, it needs bending up, but this whole piece is going to be cut out by my the body shop are going to look at this just as they did with the other side. I had the other side cut out the same way, probably around here, but the lip is actually really good. The drum is starting to bubble out a little bit, so you know this is going to be resprayed anyway, but it's fine. There's a bit of surface rust around here, down here. This is the usual area where it goes scabby. I'm just going to take this back and just put more stone chip on after we've obviously give it a bit of a wash and a clean. But overall, it's just dirty. I really do need to just check that these are scabby areas. So this area here, yeah, there's just a bit of rust there. Just little areas that I'm going to go over. There's a little bit there, but as I say, just watch this seam here, but it actually looks, it's actually really solid. This is where the plate was done originally, so this is all new metal and it's all been welded up the back side. I will check where my fingers are as well. In terms of the shock absorber, it's a bit funny around here. I'm going to go over all around here because this is where they tend to go, all around here. It is thick metal, but as I say, it's just what I want to do. These pieces here are only here to keep the arch liner in place, and because I don't have the arch liners, there's no need for them. So I feel like just literally, because these bits do break off. Luckily mine is starting to go, as you can see the little bubbling, but I might just cut this off in the future, but for now I just want to preserve it as it is. Little bit of bubbling down here, but it's actually okay. It does tend to go around this seam. This is where the seam is at the side of the boot, so it can sneak in around here, but overall I'm quite happy. You know, bolts are not stainless steel, they do tend to rust, but overall it's pretty honest. And you know, mine's tidy, but as I say, it's a usable car. In there's a bit of surface rust. This is where I struggled to get to last time. A few scabs here and there. You see right down there's a bit of blobbiness going on, but overall it's actually held up really well. There's very few areas that I'm not happy with. Again, the sill will be looked at. It's been bent up in the past, I don't know why. We've got some dents here in the sill. I'm afraid I put my hands up to these two dents. I caught it on a stone on this driveway coming in, a stone that has been removed, but they're going to pull these out and then obviously sand it back and respray it with the rest of the quarter panel. This quarter panel is completely faded. We've got some stone chips, and also this lip, I'll just show you in here. This lip has been bent all the way backwards. I don't know why the body shop years ago have done that, but the lip is actually really good. It just needs to be bent back so I can actually clean it properly. But that's all going to be done today. And as we go further down the car, this is the sill that hasn't been looked at, and I think there's some suspicious areas. If I just come here. This area here is a bit suspicious. I just don't like the way it's cracking. I have gone over it, but the truth is it's a little bit of surface rust on this side, and this wing, as you can see, is completely rotten. It's going to be changed. It's literally held in by fiberglass at the bottom. There's a temporary bodge, but it is literally just gone. Yeah, it's just, this is how they go. When they start going like this, there's just no chance for them. Look at that. What happens, and I'll come round to the front now, is just stuff gets wedged in here. If you've got the foam that is behind it, so I'm going to take these arch liners off in a bit. If you've got the foam, I would remove the foam away. It's only sound deafening. just to sound deafen the cabin a bit more, but they hold water and moisture, and what we find is the wing can just rot from around here, but usually they bubble at the bottom, but they can go as high as here. Sometimes they actually rot out around here as well. I don't know why, because there's really nothing to make them go in such a way, but mine is starting to go at the bottom, but it doesn't really matter. In here, this is the thing, these are genuine forward shock absorbers. I fitted them 2 years ago and they are scabby. I mean, they all go like this. I don't know what it is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take all this off and just do a bit of stone chipping, a bit around here. Discs, yeah, I can clean these up a little bit, but they look fine to me. Pads look nice and worn in. The discs look nice. There's no lip to these discs. I barely use the car, but the actual inner side is actually looking good. The subframe looks good from this side. There's a few areas, just these bits here, just side bits. It's going a bit frilly here as well, just where my hand is. It's just gone a bit funny, but I'll just go over the sides as and when. But actually the subframe, again, apart from a bit of bubbling towards the back, as you can see, it actually looks really good. They can go also here behind the wing, where you got this chassis rail that takes to the actual main beam across the car. They can go a bit funny here. Always look behind the sill as well. There's a few areas that I've already identified off camera, and I'll take you around to the other side. Just come around the other side as well. Obviously I've got to take the arch line off this side as well, and that's holding up really well, this wing. I'm really pleased. There's actually no deterioration from what I can see at all of that wing, but this side is actually much better. There doesn't seem to be as much rust. They do tend to rust. I'll tell you where they rust. Here, this bracket that holds the brake hose on, they can actually rot to the point of breaking off. So again, these genuine shock absorbers, and you just got to keep an eye on that just to make sure yours is not too far gone, because I've seen a bodge where if this breaks, people get a hose clamp to hold that true, but your MOT tester may not be impressed with that. But, I've done all copper lines, just got to wash it off. All new brake lines. It doesn't look very good, but say these swivel pillars can get a bit frilly as well. I'll just go over this again, but I actually did a pretty good job. It's held up extremely well. Again, I'll go over this as well, just to they get a bit frilly here as well, but the stone chip's looking really good on that. And these Lem Forder drop links, right, these they must be galvanized, because there's not a patch of surface rust on them at all. They are high quality stuff. I'd really recommend that. I mean, to be fair, this sill is the best one of the car. I'm actually going to come from the back side because it is really sunny today. The only thing I've noticed is where they've done the welding, just on this piece here, it's just starting to go again on this bit, so I'm gonna have to top up the stone chip and clean it. But again, just this area, just get your hand in, there's nothing, there's just nothing. Again, this is dirt. Again, this side, this was the patch, not a very functional patch to get through an MOT. Ideally, I would have liked it done a bit better, but it's held up really well, and I'm quite impressed. I mean, I don't think there's anything serious going on in there at all. There's a few little areas that I might want to attend to. Again, this is the area where the seatbelt mounting points are. That, again, all this can get really frilly, and it actually can rot out really badly in this area. Yes, I know you've inspected my short length pipe. I actually had to do a repair on this pipe, and I just put a short one into another union. That's all well and good. It's anything when you run out of pipe, always make sure you've got more than enough copper pipe when you're doing this sort of stuff. And you can see how tight it is against the body, these pipes that go above the fuel tank. Yeah, it doesn't look bad on this side. It just, again, I'm going to go over the top just to make sure that there's no peeling stuff. But as I say, this actually looks far better. There's a few areas here that are a bit funny, but I'm really impressed. Yeah, this is just a bit frilly. I just go under there. I'm struggling to see what's on the camera myself because the brightness is it's so bright down here, but yeah, it's held up really well, and that's what they've done on this side. There's a few little areas on the inside that I might want to do. I want to go through this area here just to make sure this is all good. It's actually quite tacky. The good thing is, when underseal or Waxall is quite tacky, it means that things are actually quite nice. When it goes really dry and then starts looking like it's cracking, that's not a good sign. That means there's rust underneath. But what I'm going to do now is literally hose the damn thing off to take this back to square one. Right. Bit of a rim top on the top. Amazing how these things get so filthy. It's just so satisfying to do this. That Dynax I put on, look at it, it's just deflecting it straight off. That is what Dynax does. A few areas up there that I've just identified. Oh, it's a gentle hose off. It's absolutely filthy. I am going to take these arch liners off in a bit. Just want to do this first, do it systematically. And because it's a lovely sunny day, it will just dry up very quickly. I would recommend you do this, because when you aim it in there, your drain's unblocked. Make sure your drains are definitely unblocked. So I recommend doing this every time you clean the car, and it will just get rid of all that rubbish. Oh. Remember to aim it this way to get it in the lift. People don't aim it this way. Go underneath as well. Sure there is nut done possible. It's already looking great. All that dirt is coming straight off. Just a hose. No snow foam. Snow foam's for later. Don't waste the snow foam on this. Again, unblock your drains. Yeah, perfect. Aim it down there. Aim it up as well. We are going to take these liners off, but for technique, I'd shove your hose in like that for normal cleaning. But we're going to take the arch liners off, so it doesn't matter. So get underneath here and aim it across the subframe. I mean, look at the water, it's just literally beading straight off. That is exactly what I wanted to see today. I don't think I'm going to be doing much work, he says. And just just go around gently on the underside. Transmission casing has held up really nicely since I resprayed that. Just aim it in here as well. There's a lot of dirt that hangs around the bottom ball joints. Just have a really good go over. It looks a lot better. This is such a messy, mucky job. I cannot tell you. I mean, to be fair, my car is actually much more cleaner than the majority of Focus Mark 1s that you typically see, or cars this age. You know, remember Project Beatrix, for those of you who've actually watched the videos, that was the dirtiest car I've ever owned. But yeah, I mean, this is going to take probably about an hour or two to dry off thoroughly. But now I want to get the arch liners off, and you're going to need, well, I should say you need a 7mm spanner for the nut underneath the bottom of the front wing. But I've actually thrown my 7mm nuts away because I do not consider them big enough. I'm just going to I'll show you that in a second. So down here we have what was a 7mm nut is now a 10mm nut, because I think the 7mm nuts are just not big enough, and I think a 10mm spreads the load out and makes the arch liner actually sit much more nicer against the wing. Obviously the fit isn't great, they never fit well. There's always this little bit of a gap, and that's what my that is a weakness of a Mark 1, the fact that you've got this gap here, and stuff just gets in and builds up, and it is not uncommon for you to take your arch liners off and see a clump of stuff behind here, and I expect to see a whole clump of stuff in the typical usual way, but that's the only bolt there. And then you literally have a load of Torx bits all over the place. They are T20 bits, they should be T20, so there's about one there, there's one up there, there's one there, there's one there, and there could be another one lurking somewhere, but I think that's mainly it. So we'll whack these off and get the arch liner off. It's a T25, I thought it was. These are relatively new screws. I did actually buy a load of new ones because the old ones were really nasty. It's just cheap to get some new ones fitted, and these are actually bigger than the originals from what I've seen. And there's one up there as well. It's cleaned up really well actually. I'm really impressed. Just needs to be dried up, and then we can see what we've got. And then I've lost the screw. Don't lose the screw. And you can do these, I say, with the wheel off. You can use one of these screwdrivers. If you've got the wheel on, I don't know why you would want to take the arch liner off with the wheel still on. I would always recommend taking the wheel off, because then you can use these sort of type of screwdrivers. I mean, you can use your Torx bits for your ratchet if you really need them in a tight situation, but honestly you don't really need it. Come to this fella just here. It is a 10mm. I just bought new bolts for this. They are fixings. They are the sort of type fixings. They're not like screws. They're actually just a standard fastener. So if you search for 10mm hex fastener on eBay, and you'll find plenty of these. Again, this is a relatively new one, and then we are free, and then we just wiggle up the back, and typically we have a mountain. See, this is absolutely typical. This is why you really have to be careful. Oh my god. Okay, that looks really good in there. Let me just pull this back. So just pull this. There's a little notch here at the top. There you go. And once you've done that, it falls out. I would recommend giving the arch liner a bit of a clean around there, because they can actually get dirty around the fixing areas. So just pop that there without damaging anything. You can see the amount of rubbish that actually gets on the backside. Do not ignore stuff that gets stuck here, because there's no point in cleaning this out and drying it up to have that go back on. You've got to hose this down and you've got to clean it, because this is mud. You don't want mud sitting against the arch. Let's have a look. I'm trying to shoot this video in real time because I don't like editing, and I like to show you a bit of realism. See, look, that's where the mud's sitting, right next to the fixing point. Don't want mud there, and already it's just starting to go a little bit in the corner. This is typically where they go. I wasn't not expecting something here, and again I'm going to go over again because clearly it's the area that needs to be looked at. This is the most common rust spot on a front wheel arch on a Mark 1, and I have seen them get so bad that this plate, this is just a plate that goes in front of the brake servo through there, and I've seen them rot out because it's just a piece that's buck seamed sort of in here. Again, you've got this drainage here that I cleaned out last year, but it's still looking a bit funny. So as I say, just get all this stuff out. This is where your water comes from when you're aiming the hose up there. It will come through this bit and then work its way down to this bit. And yeah, this is dry. Now what that proves is that the water from your hose does not touch this stuff. It's not uncommon. Obviously, this is where your foam insulation, by the way. If you've got the foam insulation, throw it in the bin, because all it does is it rots out this wing. It holds the moisture against the wing. So I would absolutely recommend, I mean, this is still held up well. I'm really amazed. There's actually barely any. It's just that. There's no other areas here, so this is really good, but it's not uncommon to see a clump of crap up to here, and this is why these wings just rot out at the bottom here. It's just the crap sitting against them, and particularly if you've got your cars underneath a tree, that's even worse. But I am just going to get the hose on this and clean all this out, because this is just sitting here waiting to do harm. Blah. Right, so we've got this as well. So try this side. Repeat. Eat, sleep, repeat, as they say. Okay. Oh, there's always one screw that someone forgets to take out. Pull this out. Okay, should wig itself out actually. There we go. Again, the back side, you know, these are the areas that get a bit muddy, see, typically. And this bit sort of sit up here. Can you see the damage that has done? See what I mean? There's moisture here, there's mud, and that's caused surface rust. So I'm gonna have to go over this again, just clean this up with some white spirit before I start. Again, there's a lot more mud on this side. Again, mud around the fixing points. This isn't too bad. In fact, I think that's okay. It hasn't actually, there's no evidence of surface rust, so that's held up okay. I'm quite happy. They get a bit funny around where the electrics connect from the engine bay into the actual loom itself. The washer bottle, yeah, this is just typical. Everything gets stuck around the washer bottle. I'm just going to flush this out, and yes, you can see half of it's fallen on the floor. My fiberglass repair that I did 2 years ago, because I knew this wing wasn't going to last, but I thought I'd do something in the meantime just to, yeah, I don't really care about this wing, but I don't want it hurting anything else. And again, this side is presented extremely well, so again, I'm just going to have to go with the hose off. Whoa. A better example of what I'm talking about, look at all that mush around the fixing. That's half your problem as well. It just gets stuck and it just becomes mud. This is 6 months, by the way. This is 6 months. So if you imagine, if you haven't looked at yours in a few years, yeah, I can imagine there'll be some problems. There is some lacquer peel going on here on this wing, but the truth, this front bumper, the truth is this bumper will be changed in about 12 months time, so it's going to last a bit more, but I can make that look good. But as I say, go through the lip. There's a little bit of clay in there, but it's not too bad. It's mainly stuff that gets stuck around the washer bottle, but that will all be cleaned out. Anyway, let's get the hose back out again. There you go. Washy. Now, a final word on these arch liners. I would recommend that you clean all around where this lip meets the actual front wing lip, because I think a lot of the reasons why the front wings tend to scab and rot around the edge is simply because of mud trapped all around this orifice. This particular piece is where it actually meets the bottom of the bumper, so this is actually really close to the bit that actually commonly rots out on the front wing on a Mark 1 Focus. It may be because mud gets gummed up inside this bit. I'd really give it a fuller clean. Now, I've washed it a few times. There is some evidence that of my previous painting has actually stuck on somewhat, but overall they are both in really good nick, and they're now really clean. Obviously there is some surface mud. I'm going to clean this off the back side before I refit them, so there is absolutely no dirt whatsoever. I'll probably go to GT85 or something nice just to rub it down with, but as I say, make sure those areas are clean as well. There's no mud or anything, so you know what you're putting back on is clean, and that's the most thorough way of preparing a car for any rust protection. Now, as we can see, now the back end is actually really dry now. We can see that we just need a bit of a top up down here, but as I say, some of this is going to get done anyway, but overall it's brilliant. It's really nice. I will go over with some white spirit, but I can actually start to actually get my screwdriver and just have a look at a few areas that may be flaking. As I did this before. This has actually been patched. That is a plate that's been welded here because there was a hole right there. This bit this bit here can be a bit funny, but as I say, this bit looks okay to me. I've ground it back and I just put some fiberglass just to reinforce this, because I feared that the metal here was a bit thin, so I put some fiberglass over the top of it. Ideally you put fresh metal in, but I didn't want to weld a plate in. My mate did that, and he did a really good job of it, because there was a little square hole here, and it's still solid and there's no sign of visible rusting. And same here, there would be visible rust will come through and reveal itself quite nicely, and I can feel these are quite good. They're not crispy in any way. They look worse than actually what they are. I just got there in time. Ideally you just want to flat this back and make it look really nice, but the truth is it's functional. It's functional. As long as it's solid, I don't really care. I'm not all for this, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm really good with the paintwork, and many of you watch my Beatrix videos will know that, especially on the underside of this car. But this is different. This has been a daily driver for many years, and it's had to have its use. So it's a compromise between a few things, but I'm not one of these people that put them on special ramps that turn the car literally at a 90-degree angle, so you can actually work on the underside when the car is tilted at an angle, and then respray the underside like factory. I think that is just, it's just unnecessary unless you want it to be concourse, and I don't want to do that, because if I did that, I won't want to use this car. I mean, it's got some scabs here that's going to be sorted out. It's functional. It's tidy. It's mint, as people tell me, but it's not concourse, I can assure you. It's just a Focus that is tidy, can be taken to shows, but can be used. I don't think I'd want to use it if it was any nicer than this, to be honest. So, well, it is the old stone chip here. As I say, all this panel is going to be sorted. I don't care about any of this. I just want to make sure that the underside is good in this sense. Yeah, it's also quite nice as well. Right, I'm going to leave this here for part one. Lemon at this sun is really nice. It is a pleasure to work on a nice sunny day for once. Part one ends here. I've got to wait for all this to dry up. When it does dry up, that's part two. See you then, guys.